So when you say, why didn't you this?
I didn't want that to
Every
start.
Democrat thought I made...
Jeebus. What's up? I'm already screwing up. How is everybody? Sorry, I had to, I got a delivery like right as I was getting ready to go on, so I had to go take care of that. So, how is everyone? Hopefully you've had a wonderful day or two. Finally got the wife to get my monsters from the store. So, I have a fresh supply. Yay. Gonna give a couple of minutes for everybody to kind of roll in here. Oh, man, 90 miles north. You're in Madison. Oh, just north of Madison. Jeez. What are you doing way up there, ma'am? Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. If you all could, as you're rolling in, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or the Twitch channel. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button as well and click on the bell icon to get notifications when we upload a new video or go live. And please share this video stream. Whichever platform you're on, just share it to your account. If you're on Facebook, you can also do a watch party. Watch parties are kind of cool where you host the video and then you basically have a private chat with people that you invite to it. If you're on Twitch, feel free to host this stream as well, okay? If you have a Twitch channel and you would like to host this, feel free to do that. You don't need my permission. Hey, Paula, how are you? Binge watching Bill Burr. Bill Burr is awesome. And I guess he released some message the other day. And it was supposedly a positive message, but no, I like Bill Burr a lot. I really do. No, I don't have any snow. It is a little chilly outside, but no snow. Just a little cold. So we've got a couple of things to cover today. We have the president owning the media. We've got Joe Rogan and, Chris Cuomo, too. That's the thing I forgot in the title. Chris Cuomo is... Hold on a second. Let me go to YouTube real quick. I need to change my description. I got all, jacked up with my the delivery there. So, I got to change the description on this thing. Yeah, Chris Cuomo hates his job. He finally admitted. So, there's that. All right. CNN's Chris Cuomo hates his job. Joe Rogan knows Biden doesn't have a chance. And Trump owns the media with their own words. Doink, doink, doink. All right, so hit refresh on YouTube and you'll get the updated description on that. So sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, cool. So we've got about 48 people in here, which is a little low right now, but usually they trickle in about 2:30 or so. It takes a while for that to happen. So like I said, just like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff. Okay, well, I guess the first thing that we're going to start off with is Chris Cuomo from It's Not News at CNN. CNN, by the way, we'll be talking about this on the radio show today, continues to have a horrible, 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 horrible month. Now, they've had pretty much a bad couple of years, but they've had a really, really bad month. So anyway, this is CNN's Chris Cuomo, and he basically, he finally admits he hates his job, just doesn't like doing what he does.
Because I don't want to spend my time doing things that I don't think are valuable enough to me, personally. Like what? Well, I don't like what I do professionally, I've decided. I like doing this show. I like talking to you guys. But I don't value indulging irrationality, hyperpartisanship. I don't think it's worth my time. And I don't want some jackass, loser, fat tire biker to be able to pull over and get in my face and in my space and talk bullshit to me. I don't want to hear it. And just like you would, right? You're not going to tolerate that, right? Some cat just basically pulls up in the driveway next to yours and starts getting in your face about stuff. How's that going to go? How's that going to go, right? That matters to me more than making millions of dollars a year. That matters to me more. Why? Because I've saved my money.
Okay. So, First of all, we all feel that way in this business. It's just, the nature of it. Now, people, obviously very, very insulting there apparently there's a biker that did this to him because it was very specific. Very insulting of somebody who pulled up next to him. But at the same time, here's the deal. If you're going about your life, people harassing you when you're out and about, it's not okay. But I would also like to point out the irony that he works for a network that has advocated people doing that to Trump administration officials, and they have defended and even supported and provided cover for people who do that to conservatives on college campuses. So his network is openly advocating for people to go do that with conservatives and people in the Trump administration, and yet he doesn't like it being done to him. So I don't really feel for him. All right. Now, in general, you should be leaving people alone out in public like that. I don't want to deal with it when I'm out with my family, that sort of thing. We had an incident where Ben Shapiro was, the Groypers, I guess, kind of approached him. And, you don't do that when you're with family. There's no defense of it. I watch people try to defend it. You don't do it. Yes, Ben Shapiro said things about, was it Mendez or whatever his name is? Has said things about him on his show, has said things about him in speeches, sure. The opposite is true for the other guy, but you don't approach somebody when they're with their family. You just don't, okay? That's the basic rules of all of this. And it can be very taxing, sure, especially if you're going through a particularly harsh period in the news cycle. That can certainly happen. We've all been there. We've all kind of looked at it and go, I could walk away from this. And I've told you before, in the past year or so is the first time I've really kind of felt like I could walk away. And I probably could. But there's that reality that is out there. Like, okay, if I walked away from this business, though, would I be happier or would I be less fulfilled? And the answer to that is I would be less fulfilled, without a doubt. It would find my way back to it at some point in time, whether it was doing a live stream or something of that nature. So it wouldn't, go anywhere. Now, he's at the point where he says he could just totally walk away, doesn't like what he's doing. And frankly, Chris Cuomo's not very good at what he does. So I can understand him not liking what he is doing. He's consistently caught making things up. He's consistently caught ill-prepared. He says things without verifying them. That's a big problem at CNN in particular because they are very ill-informed. And part of me wonders if that's because they get all of their news from themselves. I've told this story before, when Brian Kilmeade and I were out at dinner, the first time that we met, I asked him, hey, where are you, how does your show prep pipeline kind of work? How do you go about doing that? He gets everything from Fox News. He doesn't do anything on his own. Everything from Fox News. I love Brian Kilmeade. I'm not attacking the guy. Please don't take it that way. And I think he does a really good job. And his ratings on our station are phenomenal. And he's got a really good show. And I like him a lot personally. I consider him... I don't know that I would consider him a friend. We don't hang out enough for that, but certainly one of the better people in our industry. But at the same time, when all of your information comes from one source, you're going to miss a lot. And so if Brian Kilmeade's information all comes from Fox, I would assume that Cuomo's information all comes from CNN. And CNN is not very good at information. They're terrible at it. They're consistently wrong. Now, you can come to that conclusion of why that is a couple of different ways. CNN is either lazy or CNN is intentionally misleading people. Regardless, he's probably getting most of his information from either a lazy or an intentionally misleading source, okay? And that's why he runs into so much trouble. And that's why people are so angry at him. You can demonstrably prove that he's wrong. Now, occasionally you get some quackos who, even though you'll prove to them the sky is blue, they still won't like you and they'll still pretend it isn't blue. Occasionally you'll run into that. But generally speaking, if you're honest with people and you're respectful of people, which Cuomo is not, then you will have that respect and that honesty kind of given back to you in general, especially amongst your peers. Cuomo's not a nice guy. Cuomo's not honest. Cuomo's not well prepared. Cuomo makes a lot of mistakes, says a lot of very emotional and viscerally, personally attacking things. And he gets it blown back in his face. So that's why people are not afraid to approach Chris Cuomo. He's an asshole. And because he's an asshole to everybody else, people are okay and comfortable with being an asshole to him. And so he doesn't like that. Okay. 2 things to do. Quit. Don't do the work anymore like he seems to be suggesting that he could do now that he's rich. And the other thing is change your behavior. You know, if you don't like the way that people are treating you, stop treating them that way. And so that's his choice right now. It just seems like he's pretty tired. Now, again, we all kind of get to that point in this business, but he seems very, very tired and doesn't really want to deal with it anymore. We'll see how long he lasts at CNN. Could just be temporary because he's dealing with a lot of it right now. Again, CNN is having a terrible month. But, you know, it is what it is, and we'll see where ultimately what ends up happening with him as a result of it. But, you know, you can't go around being that way and then get pissed off at people for being that way to you. You know, it's well known that I will attack people and I will insult people, but everybody that I do that to has done it to somebody else or done it to me. You know, people who are respectful and don't engage in that personal stuff, I think that I can count on 2 fingers the people that I've instigated an argument with. So, you know, it's just, it is what it is. Let's see. I disagree, Casey. People need to get bullied. People need to get called out, not sheltered. Yeah, you just don't do it with people's family, man. If I'm out at dinner with my family and you approach my family, I consider you a threat at that point. You're not just some asshole on the street. You know, you're a threat. You don't attack them in person. And that's where, you know, if it's in a professional environment, I'm okay with that. But in general, you know, we're off duty. Let us be off duty. That's where my philosophies lie, regardless of if you're the left or the right. Where I change with that behavior and my opinion on that is people like Cuomo have advocated and supported people doing this to conservatives. So you can't really get upset at people coming back at you because you've told everybody to go out and do that. So there you go. No, I don't believe he's off quarantine yet. No, he's still in quarantine from what I understand. Dogface pony soldier, exactly. Malarkey. All right, so here's the thing. Okay, Chuck. True story. If you look at CNN's ratings, so they failed to... Hold on a second, because I just had this and I didn't get a chance to do it. CNN failed. This is in my show prep from like last week sometime. I think they failed to land a single show in the top 26. I'm looking. Sorry, folks, I don't have it. It's buried in my show prep. But basically, CNN just, I mean, no ratings at all. Just absolutely no ratings. So CNN pays places like airports to air their programming, okay? For those of you wondering why every time you go to the airport or something, CNN is playing, they pay airports to do that, all right? There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I'm just letting you know. It's not because it's popular demand or anything like that. It's because CNN pays the airport to run their programming. And they don't really have good ratings. So generally speaking, you have people in public places where CNN pays to be, and you have people like me who are part of the media who have to cover what CNN does because CNN is spreading a ton of misinformation. CNN is more powerful on Twitter than they are in television, without a doubt. And that's kind of the issue. Their website is much more popular than the programming too. But yeah, it's just CNN is a mess, you know, but we have that leaked audio from Zucker saying we're all in on beating Trump. And that's exactly the tone that the network has taken. We're all in on beating Trump, even if it means lying and distorting the truth and rewriting history. And that is exactly what they are doing. How are they making money? I don't know. I really don't know. They pay their people way too much money, especially considering the quality of those people. They said Chris Cuomo was like, it's millions of dollars a year. He makes millions of dollars a year. Cuomo makes millions of dollars a year, and I'm considered lower middle class. And my share of the market is larger than CNN's. It's weird, okay? It's totally weird, but that's what happens. It's interesting to see that he's come to that realization, and he might just be tired because of all of this, and maybe he'll bounce back. Who knows? Like I said, we all kind of go through it. I've had several months, over the past couple of years where I'm like, yeah, I could walk away. You know, but then the question, okay, what would I do? And there's a couple of things that I could do professionally. I don't think necessarily that my business is at the point that I could do it full time, so I'd have to do something else. Probably end up being real estate or something like that. But I think ultimately I would just find my way migrating back here. And I have to think back that the time that I was unemployed in this business, and I really didn't like not being in radio. So that's just kind of where I'm at. You get tired, but you recover from it, and you just have to think about what else is out there. Now, he doesn't have to think about that, and he alluded to this because he's already made millions of dollars and he's saved his money. So for him, he could easily probably walk away. If I were a multimillionaire, I'm who knows what I would do. I have no idea. I would either spend a lot of money marketing myself so more people realized who I was, or I would, maybe take a back seat, or maybe even buy a radio station. I've considered that as well. All right, so something else that we have to discuss. Well, and here's the thing, dude. Angry Patriot, Don Lemon is the dumbest person on television, and I'm including Joy Reid in that. He is so stupid. He is probably the worst person on cable news. Don Lemon, the worst person on cable news. And I would watch Chris Cuomo's program every single day until my eyes bled before I would watch a single solitary 10 minutes, because I have to watch some of his show for sound bites. A single solitary 10 minutes of Don Lemon. It's just one of the most ridiculous programs I have ever seen in my entire professional career. Thank you, Casey. A voice of normalcy in a time of hysteria, albeit idiotic man-made hysteria. All right, Douglas, appreciate that. All right, so let's see. Do you think that Trump has enough money to buy CNN? Yeah, he does, but CNN, I don't know that they would sell. When they re-signed Zucker's contract, I was shocked, because the network has taken an absolute dump since he got there. There's been no positive developments at CNN since Zucker took over. And then you've got leaked audio of Zucker saying, we're all in on beating Trump. And it's like, what? But here's the thing. When you're billionaires, you can go out there and you can devote all of these resources into destroying a single individual, and you don't care if you take a loss on it, because why not? That's just kind of what we're at. Brian Stelter is the second worst person on all of television. Brian Stelter is probably the dumbest person on Twitter. And, I have fact checked. I go back, what is he? TV Newser, was that his website back in the day? I remember basically my entire career has been fact checking Brian Stelter. He's terrible. The dude is just the worst when it comes to it. But I would still rather watch his show than Don Lemon's show, just because Brian Stelter sometimes has a better guest on. So it is bad. If you're talking about media in general, the most idiotic would have to be Alex Jones. It used to be that. I don't know that I would go there now. I think that as Alex Jones has built the InfoWars empire, and it is a damn empire, I think that he's gotten some good people around him over the past several years, and they've helped calm him down on some things. And they've also helped verify some stuff so he doesn't just run with something without verifying it. But I think if you were to go back 10, 12 years, I would probably agree with you. But he's done much better. And a lot of the stuff that's about Alex Jones out there right now are things that are myth or have been addressed years ago, such as the school shooting at Sandy Hook and things like that. That's been totally taken out of context. He's apologized for it repeatedly. He's played the audio of what really happened. So there's a lot of stuff that's distorting Alex Jones too. But if you go back 10 or 12 years, I would agree with you. All right, let's see. All right. Here we go. I want to play you have to do the Trump versus the media thing, because the president finally held the media to their, at their own word. And we played many of these montages, tons of these montages, so we're going to play that for a second. But first, I got to tell you about our new sponsor, silverfoxart.com. If you are looking for unique wall decorations, these things are amazing. And we have shown several of the stuff that they have done for me. They made this amazing piece for me. And here, I've got it here. Hold on a second. Oh, this right here, that's wood. So it's 3D, it is wood, and it's backlit, and it's awesome. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to put together a little commercial for him. Make sure I don't break it. I'm going to put together a little commercial for him so that way you guys can see more of his work. It's just, phenomenal, phenomenal work. If you go to silverfoxart.com, you can take a look at the work that they do. Just really, really great stuff. So if you're looking for a custom piece of art that is made out of wood, that is backlit, and you want something that'll go in your either man cave or your house or your church or your business, they do all sorts of amazing things. So check out silverfoxart.com. And again, they are the sponsor, the official sponsor of Casey's Quarantine Corner for the next year. So silverfoxart.com. Check them out, okay? Make sure you let them know that I sent you too, by the way. All right, so here's the president versus the media.
In 5 years, when I'm not here, those papers are all going out of business because nobody's going to want to read them. But now they like them because they write about me. Now, with that, I have a couple of we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting. And then we'll answer some questions. I'll ask you some questions because you're so guilty, but forget it. But most importantly, we're going to get back onto the reason we're here, which is the success we're having. Okay? Please, you could put it on. Thank you.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
What if it is worse? Is this a moment where maybe countries put politics aside, a little bit of pride aside, and do we have U.S. officials? Should U.S. professionals such as yourself get involved?
How worried should Americans be about coronavirus?
Coronavirus is not going to cause a major issue in the United States.
Now, he gets into some other stuff.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine. We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Medicare patients can now visit any doctor by phone or video conference at no additional cost.
The first 1 million masks will be available immediately.
As there were more cases, and it was clear that it was spreading out of China, where it originated, the president took this move that he was widely criticized for by Democrats and even some Republicans at the time, which was he halted a number of flights from China into the U.S. The idea was to halt the spread of the disease, keep transmissions to a minimum. He was accused of xenophobia. He was accused of making a racist move. At the end of the day, it was probably effective because it did actually take a pretty aggressive measure against the spread of the virus.
His team is on it. They've been responsive late at night, early in the morning, and they've thus far been doing everything that they can do, and I want to say thank you, and I want to say that I appreciate it.
He returns calls. He reaches out. He's been proactive. We got that Mercy ship down here in Los Angeles. That was directly because he sent it down here. 2,000 medical units came to the state of California, these FMS, these field medical stations. And that's been very, very helpful.
The president has been outstanding through all this. The vice president's been outstanding. Members of the coronavirus task force, very responsive.
We had asked if we could have, New Jersey could have access to a piece of the beds that are on the USNS Comfort, and the president came back, called me a short few minutes before I walked in here to say indeed they would grant that to New Jersey. So that's a big step for us in addition to all the other capacity. That news is literally hot off the press, and I thank the president and vice president who are on the call together.
President Trump approved Arizona's request for a presidential major disaster declaration. I want to thank the president for a quick turnaround. We requested this on a Wednesday, and we had approval by Saturday morning. And we are grateful to the administration for their continued support and responsiveness.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the president and the vice president for doing a really good job of communicating with all the governors.
So we could give you hundreds of clips like that from governors, including Democratic, or Democrat as I call them, governors, which is actually the correct term, We could give you hundreds of clips just like that. We have them. We didn't want this to go on too long, but I just want to say it's, it's very sad when people write false stories like, in that case, I guess it was gotten mostly from the New York Times, which is a highly, if you had libel laws, they would have been out of business even before they'll end up going out of business. So it's too bad. But we could have given, you saw the statements.
Okay. Now, Frank, you're not wrong. CNN and MSNBC and other networks cut away in the middle of it. And then I was looking on YouTube yesterday, just, not even looking for this, just looking at other stuff. And there was MSNBC doing a segment. The president takes over or press briefing to play propaganda video. And it's like, really? Okay, not propaganda. That all happened. Okay, that's all fact. I've played montage after montage after montage after montage of all of this on the radio program. And the fact of the matter is, the press got it all wrong. And here's the thing. They wouldn't be able to be blamed for that because they believe the World Health Organization, which was taking information from China, and we now know it was all wrong. So if the press would just admit, yeah, we called it wrong early on, instead of trying to rewrite history and say that he didn't do things that he did and that they did things that they didn't do, if they would just stop doing that, nobody would be pissed at them. But because they're refusing to acknowledge their actual coverage, their actual reporting, and they're distorting what he actually did, while at the same time refusing to acknowledge that China was misleading the world intentionally and that the World Health Organization did it, whether they were their winning partner or an unwitting partner, we don't know yet. We have some evidence that seems to be winning partner. But the World Health Organization went out there and spread Chinese propaganda. I mean, for crying out loud, CNN today issued a press release that was written by the Chinese Communist Party, for crying out loud. I mean, it makes no sense. But that's what they're doing. And I've played you hundreds of examples of this over the past couple of weeks. The media got it wrong. Okay, now they're not at fault for that. They were lied to. The Trump administration acted on this in the first week of January. The media, still into late February, was telling you not to worry about it. So there's this huge, massive gap where what the Trump administration actually was doing was not being covered, partly because of impeachment and other stories that were out there, and we were giving you slight updates on it. But then I started seeing the pattern in China and Wuhan, and that's why I started covering this in mid-January every day. Because everything that you were seeing was, okay, if this doesn't come to the Western world, this is going to be pretty big, and it's going to devastate the third world, and that's where things are going to be a problem. So it looks like we got somebody who doesn't know history on there. Otto. Trump is scared of the truth. He tried to sweep it under the rug, and the media knows that's history. What did he try to sweep under the rug? Because he told you that this was all serious. So you can make statements, but you better back them up. And the fact of the matter is the timeline is on the Trump administration's side. The timeline is not on the press's side. And everything that the press has continued to say about him has been wrong. And that's the issue. They've been wrong from the moment he got in. They were originally lying about, for crying out loud, the crowds and stuff that he had when he was inaugurated, when they were trying to run those things before the crowds were even let in. Then they started lying about Trump-Russia collusion, that he stole the election, all of these other things. None of that was accurate. And then you get into the whole impeachment process. That was based on something that didn't happen. So you continue to look at the pattern the media has distorted. They've lied about. They've rewritten history on this. And if you would just look at the press and the timeline of all of those timelines that I posted on with graphics, so you can see the headlines of it. If you listen to the montage that I had of the Democrats that I played for you a week or two ago, the montages that I played for you of the media consistently, long after the Trump administration had already acted on this and declared emergencies and started moving on things, they were still telling you not to worry about it. That's the issue. And now, if you look at all of the facts, the press was wrong, the Trump administration was right, and he took that guess because he had information coming from the experts. The media was taking the World Health Organization, which was getting its information from China at face value. That ended up being a huge mistake. And instead of just acknowledging that, Wired Magazine this week, Wired Magazine is sitting there and saying the right wing, what was it? The right wing, it wasn't plot, but it was something like that, right wing plot to blame the World Health Organization might actually be true. There wasn't a plot. The World Health Organization told everybody on January 14th that you can't spread this thing from person to person. And then after January 14th, the World Health Organization kept telling you not to worry about it. It's not a big deal. This is a localized, isolated event. And it wasn't. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of Chinese continued to travel around the world. We had 500,000 people from China in the United States at the peak of the outbreak in Wuhan. And then after the travel ban went into place, we had a further 40,000 Chinese come into the United States. And, you know, again, that's where the virus originated, so you have to assume that they're going to be the primary carriers of the virus. And by the time the world knew what the hell was going on, this thing had already spread everywhere. Now you've got Turkey telling everybody that they're going to send more of these refugees into Europe who apparently are infected. Huge, huge problems with the way that this has been covered. But the media has an out. The media has an out. He knew about COVID in January and did nothing. Except that's not true. It's not true. And in fact, he knew about it in December. And he started acting first week of January. We all knew about it in December. It was public knowledge in December because of the whistleblower in China. So when you say that he knew about it in January and didn't do anything, you're ignoring that he put together a task force in early January. He issued travel guidelines in the first week of January, cautioning Americans coming to and from China. It was, I think, the early second week of January, people were starting to get tested who were coming back from China for the virus. To say that he didn't do anything, Otto, is a lie. It is not true. So where this comes from is the examples of the press telling you these things right there. Like I said, I've been covering this since the second week of January, every single day on my radio show, every day. And consistently, without fail, that task force was meeting while the impeachment trial was going on. They were meeting every morning while the impeachment trial was going on. And after the State of the Union address, when he addressed the coronavirus in the State of the Union address, and then Nancy Pelosi tore up the speech, said it was full of lies and everything else. And while most of the world was not paying very close attention to this, I'm sitting here watching these virus numbers just grow. And I'm like, this is going to be bad in the third world. I don't know if it's going to get to the Western world. And then we had that weekend where we were all going, we all went onto the weekend on Friday. Everything was still pretty much localized, a couple of cases here and there outside of China. We came back on a Monday, and on Sunday afternoon, there had been a huge flare-up in Italy, and that's when the market went like that, because that's when we realized this isn't going to be something that is localized to the third world. This is going to be something that is going to affect everybody, and that's when everybody really started ramping things up. But that's where the media failed everybody. And instead of the media just automatically attacking, what they should be doing is just saying the same thing that we already know. The World Health Organization spread false information they got from China. China lied. China is asso. And that's the reason that the press got it wrong early on. That's it. And nobody's mad at that point. We all know who the target should be. The target should be the World Health Organization and China. The target shouldn't be anybody else. You know, but when you're the Democrats and you're going out there and you're telling everybody that Trump didn't do anything, when you are sitting in the House Intelligence Committee briefings as you were getting briefed almost every single day in January, you're getting regular briefings in January on this. Late January, the Senate started getting a briefing, and you realize when the White House briefed the entire Senate in late January, almost no senators went. Do you know why they didn't go? Because it was the deadline to write questions for the impeachment trial. So a bunch of the senators that you see on social media right now going, he didn't tell anybody. First of all, Fauci was giving public press conferences on that. The House Intelligence Committee had been briefed almost daily. It's probably weekly. That would be a better accurate statement. They were briefed on a regular basis in the House. The Senate was briefed, I think, on the 27th of January for the entire Senate, and almost nobody came because they were too busy worrying about impeachment. And that's the issue with, because, you see these senators out there on social media telling everybody, nobody knew. Well, yeah, you did. I'm staring at a White House press release that told everybody that this is going to be really bad. And that's in January. And I've got the White House telling Congress. I've got the White House telling the House and the Senate, both on separate occasions on a regular basis. I've got Fauci giving public press conferences on it. The idea that you weren't being informed or weren't being told about it is just patently false. You weren't paying attention. You were focused on other things. And you could be forgiven for that because you have the World Health Organization telling everybody not to worry about it. And there wasn't any cases in the Western world. It was just all in China. And China's had a lot of outbreaks that really didn't get anywhere else. So, I mean, you could be forgiven about that. But going back and now saying somehow, some way that there was a nefarious plot and the Trump administration did not tell anybody is just factually untrue. And there's documented proof. It's demonstrable that what you're saying isn't accurate. But they continue to say it. And that becomes the issue. Let's see. What do we got? Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. Let's see. Caution but didn't restrict. Yeah, he did restrict, Nicholas. He restricted in January. Let's see. So what about Trump administration saying that we are doing the most testing? We're like 5th in testing per 1,000. We have tested more people. Okay, we have tested more people than anybody else. And we also have a much bigger population than the other countries that are dealing with this other than China, obviously. And China's numbers are not accurate. So I guess I would retort your question, Nicholas, with a very simple one. Do you run around with the headline that the United States has the most coronavirus cases? Because clearly that isn't true. And yet that's the headline that we keep getting from the news media. We have the most coronavirus cases. We have the most coronavirus deaths. Nobody believes that. Nobody does. We all know that China is throttling their numbers. And all of these professional institutes globally are all saying that. And yet we keep parroting that. And if you wanted to go per capita, you could certainly go per capita. And if you look at the trajectory, this, for instance, like 2 weeks ago, this was a myth that we had. The United States trajectory of the virus was the worst in the world. No, it wasn't. It was actually 5th or 6th. And I posted the chart on that. It wasn't in any way, shape, or form the highest trajectory in the world. There were other places that were having a much more severe per capita ratio of virus, new virus cases and deaths. But the media runs with it. So that's just numbers. We certainly are testing more people. And that may not be a per capita thing, but we are testing more people without a doubt. And you have to understand a couple of other things too, Nicholas, and everybody else who is popping on here. And by the way, I mean, welcome for joining, and as long as you're respectful and you're putting things out there, I appreciate that. I welcome the debate. But another thing that when he got into it with the CBS reporter, which I don't have time to play for you today, but I'll play in the radio show. When he got in it with Paula Reed from CBS, when she was saying, what did you do, though, in this time frame? I've told you several weeks ago that the FDA prevented the Trump administration in January from starting to ramp up testing options. It was the FDA that shot that down. So the current and existing FDA rules, which are you can't do these tests until we approve these tests, and they go through this whole process. So the president initially tried to ramp up the ability to test early. That was in late January, maybe early February, but it was right around there. And the FDA is the one that shot it down. Now, eventually, what he had to do is use executive orders to go through and remove red tape to allow some of these tests to be done. So you have to understand something. The bureaucracy of the federal government that was in place prior to his administration, and goes back to several administrations, had actually prevented a more mobile and robust response that everybody now wants. But they haven't credited the president with removing the red tape to be able to push those things through currently, which is why we were able to ramp up testing so bad. And then, obviously with the geography of the country and the population of the country, you're not going to be able to test everybody right away. It's just not going to happen. If you look at South Korea, they have tested far less people than we have. In fact, they've tested less people per capita, I believe, even though they're a much smaller country. And they started way before we did, and they were praised for their testing efforts. There was a pandemic committee used the money for the wall. No, that didn't happen. That's all debunked. If corona is not tested, it doesn't exist in numbers. Well, that's accurate, okay? So this is another thing. We assume that more people have the virus than we know about because not everybody has been tested. That's an accurate statement, Otto. So if you have, 350 million people and you've only tested, 3 or 4 million or something like that, yeah, the likelihood that you have way more infected people is certainly there. True. It's also true in China and every other country. So you have to factor that in. So all we can do is look at the hospitalizations. We have to look at, the number of people who are dying, that sort of thing. Those are leveling off, thank God. Hopefully they continue on a downward trend as they've been doing over the past week or so. The CDC director says that they believe we'll hit peak this next week. So if that holds, it's really good news. That is very, very good news. Meanwhile, China's opened Wuhan up again, and now journalists are disappearing in China again because they're smuggling out information that the outbreak isn't even done in Wuhan and people are still dying there. So, you have to understand that China is lying about this entire thing. Everything that I've said about China, the possibility of it being a lab, has all come to fruition. And even China's acknowledging that possibility now this week, which the evidence more than supports that it came from a lab, not from soup. The soup thing seems to be the conspiracy theory here. But the Trump administration did not fail to act. They acted in early January. They took it seriously way before the Democrats did. The Democrats, who were embroiled in impeachment, said that it was a distraction from impeachment. We played you those sound bites. In late February, you got Democrats telling everybody to go to parades, telling everybody to go out to eat dinner, come to Chinatown, all of that. And that's all, and again, late February. Not late January, late February. So this is 2 months after the administration started taking this seriously. But there just isn't a conspiracy that he didn't act. It didn't happen, okay? And you can want the response to be better all you want, but there was no way at that time, based on the information that was available, there was no way to justify closing anything down when you had 14 cases and all of them were related to people who had been to China recently. That's the reality of the situation. It wasn't until late in February that we started getting, or was it mid-February, that we started getting the community transfers. And at that point, it was too late because we had thousands of people that had been floating around. TSA agents were spreading it everywhere because TSA agents were infected, but they're asymptomatic. You do also have Senator Rand Paul said today that he had no symptoms of the virus whatsoever, none. So he was totally asymptomatic. So he's tested negative and he's volunteering at that hospital. But, there's a lot of people walking around who didn't know that they had it. There's no way to account for that. There's just no way. So it's important that people realize those facts and that they understand that the media is just sitting there and distorting what their reporting history was. That wasn't propaganda or a campaign video that the president played. He's put up with this crap long enough. He's put up with it for several months. And the fact of the matter is they're lying about his response. And they're lying about how they covered it. And when the media tells you we all knew this was coming in early January, and yet in late February those same exact personalities are telling you the flu was worse and not to panic, that's a lie. They didn't know that it was coming in January, and they're pretending that they knew it was coming in January so they can try and dunk on the president and say that the president's response was inefficient. But it's just not true. It's not the reality of it. And again, here's the end-all be-all. The administration has all of the sound bites, all of the video clips, all of the headlines, all of the tweets, the articles, everything on their side. And the media has nothing on theirs. Nothing to corroborate their timeline, which is revisionist history. Nothing. I don't know if he's had an antibody test. The FDA keeps saying that they're going to roll that out. I just don't know when that's supposed to happen. So, all right, folks, I got to bounce because I've got 5 more minutes until I got to get ready for the radio show. And I want to make sure that I get everything set up for that. Again, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done so yet. Make sure you hit that like button, share, obviously hit the bell icon. And, well, that's just it, Daniel. You don't need the facts. It's a couple of people hopped on, and that's great that they did. And I appreciate that they weren't just throwing ad hominem attacks, but some of the stuff that they said weren't true. So they're getting their information not necessarily from accurate sources. That's the issue. The media has been wrong on this from the very beginning. I would not blame the media for getting it wrong if they would just admit that they got it wrong, and they got it wrong because they were lied to by the World Health Organization, who was lied to by China. But instead, they're pretending they didn't get it wrong. They're pretending that they were right the entire time, that they were sounding the alarms, and the Trump administration was ignoring them when, in fact, the opposite was true. So that's the issue. That is the issue. Well, I mean, look, based on the information, you can go back and you can say that, yes, early on in some of the press conferences, he didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. You can say that. But guess what? You did the same thing. And so did everybody in the media, and so did every member of the Democratic Party, and so did every member of the Republican Party, except for one individual. The one person in American politics who was sounding the alarm early on was Senator Tom Cotton. He was it. Nobody else was alarmist on this. Nobody. So you can go back to some of the early stuff in January and say, yeah, he didn't think it was going to be as big as it was going to be. Sure, but he still took it more seriously than everybody else in his political arena, other than Tom Cotton. That's it. That's just the reality of it. And it's not a justifiable attack or a dunk or anything to say that was the case. Anthony Fauci, the biggest expert that we have, late February, was telling people to still gather in public places, go on vacation, okay, because we didn't have a major outbreak until March. So if you looked at the evidence based on no community transmission, all of the cases were from China. And at that point, all of the information that we were getting from the World Health Organization was this isn't transmittable to person to person, then yeah, you would assume that they would disappear. So if you want to hold that quote against the president, fine, I'll grant you that. But he got that information from the World Health Organization, who gave that information to the CDC, who gave that information to the task force, who gave that information to the president, and he gave the information to you. The information changed. It's that simple. The information changed. All right, I got to roll because I'm out of time. Okay, again, subscribe, share, hit that like button. If you're on Twitch, make sure you subscribe there as well. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch sub every single month. And, of course, make sure that we get to that 10,000 like mark on Facebook. So I got to bounce out of here. Thank you to silverfoxart.com for sponsoring the Quarantine Corner. You have a wonderful day. And I hope that the liberal people who popped on, because, again, I appreciate the spirited debate. I have the Shiva audio for today for the radio show, Chuck. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that. But I do appreciate you all watching. Check back tomorrow at 2 o'clock as we do Casey's Quarantine Corner again. I got to bounce, seriously. I went way late on this episode, but it was totally worth it. Hope to see some of the liberals back tomorrow as well. Appreciate you being respectful and arguing points instead of ad hominem attacks. You all have a wonderful